Hey everybody, welcome to the Eric Tries Too Hard podcast. This week I got Ronald James with me. How's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm really good.
That's good. So I Facebook stalked you a bunch. I know I found you through the Sidebar open mic comedy page.
Uh,
So yeah, so you do stand up, right?
I do. I've been doing stand up for like 2 years. It's been really fun. Stand up is an interesting thing.
Now I noticed that wasn't the only I guess artistic thing you do. What else are you doing?
Um, my major's in radio, so I did traffic and weather for XM for a couple
Oh,
years.
that's awesome. Yeah.
I do voiceover work. I had a small clothing line, street art, improv.
Yeah, see, I kept going through and I followed all your links, and I was like, oh, he has a clothing line. Oh, he does this. Oh,
Yeah,
he does this. Yeah, that was
I
awesome.
was
So,
I was in
what
a
got?
small indie movie
Mhm.
this year.
Yeah.
Been a lot of weird stuff. So
So,
yeah,
what got you started down this path? What was the first thing you remember of? I'm going to do something in showbiz or art, whatever, however you want to call it.
Tupac.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I'm a big fan of Tupac, and I thought that his poetry was really cool. So I was like, I'm gonna try this. I was like 13, 14.
Oh, yeah.
So I started writing poetry, which transformed into the idea that maybe I was a little decent at expressing myself, and then it kind of branched off into there. But then, like comedic influences like Seinfeld and Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and Dave Chappelle, and I wasn't a huge fan of. I know it sounds fucking crazy. I wasn't a huge fan of Richard Pryor, but I was a huge fan of his expression, the fact that he
Yeah.
could say, express himself the way he wanted to, and he did so many things.
I actually have a theory about that. How old are you? I'm 29. Just cards on
I'm
the table.
I'm 31.
Oh yeah, so we're about the so I noticed a lot of people our age, especially the comics I've been talking to, will say they'll cite it's so funny. Eddie Murphy is like the number one person who people tell me
Yeah,
like that's who I'm influenced by, shortly followed by Seinfeld. But with I guess people our age, I have a theory on why we respect but don't necessarily enjoy Richard Pryor, and that's
I
because
don't.
it's so, or I guess in the way that like people aren't crazy about him as much as people a little bit older than us are, is that he paved the way for so many comedians
Right,
that
right.
a lot of the things he did became either like I don't want to say hack, but yeah, hack, but not because they weren't good jokes, but because everybody started doing them after him to the point where by the time you get exposed to him, it's like, well, I've heard that joke before. I know
Right.
exactly what that
Yeah,
is.
that's the
Yeah,
suckiest part about it. It's like when you when you see like special effects when they were first kind of
yeah,
becoming a thing, they look shitty to you now, but you have to understand what it meant to be watching a black and white movie and have something disappear. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. What
man,
the
what the
fuck?
fuck was that? In every movie up until that point, not hearing any sound and just seeing things, just it's like it's a pretty big deal. So you have to. I'm really good at taking putting things in perspective. It's like you have to like get outside of. We create worlds, right? We create our little mini worlds where we only see the impact of the things that we've exposed ourselves to. It's actually easier now. So like say if you just like Louis C.K., right? You can just expose yourself to Louis and watch his specials and order them. And then in your brain, he's the only comic that exists.
Yeah,
That's not the case. You know what I mean? People create their little worlds where there's no cultural impact from anybody but the people that they love. So it's a strange thing. But yeah, I'm not so far removed from things that I don't realize that he is an integral part of why I'm able to do what I'm doing. So
yeah, yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, the God, that's. Do you find that that happens in whether
oh
local or bigger scenes where you'll just run into a comic who really thinks that just like a handful of comics exist and they just don't understand?
yeah, man, it's like people don't even realize that they're isolating themselves. They're isolating themselves from culture and stuff like that. And I'm a really big fan of listening to a lot of different perspectives. I think it's okay to be fans of like Louis C.K. and then like Kevin Hart and you know, or even some more obscure comics like Rory Scovel or people like that. Like it's okay to kind of have a decent spectrum because I feel like if you watch one type of comic, you think that that's what it is. It's I don't know.
No,
You got
you're absolutely right. That's I mean, I've been doing music forever, and it always pissed me off when people would hear whatever a band in the last 10 years or one genre in the last 10 years and assume that those bands they were listening to were the pioneers of everything that they
right,
created.
right.
And it's frustrating to me when I'm like, oh, hey, you guys should check out this band who influenced all those bands. And they're like, oh, that's bullshit, get out of here. Like,
Right, right.
come
It's,
on.
it's you don't want people don't want to expand their minds in any way, shape, or form. It's like it's what they have. That's all it is. So it's
So
interesting.
the way that you made that point much more eloquently than the way I'm trying to go back to it about how people don't will isolate themselves artistically, culturally, everything.
Yeah.
At what point did you start noticing that? Because that's definitely a perspective I've taken, but it took me a while to kind of get there and realize when
Well,
I was doing it too.
it's a pretty heavy thing, but I grew up in Northeast Baltimore. It was a pretty bad neighborhood. And there it was, people are where they are. You know what I mean? It's middle to lower middle class to even lower class. It's people just kind of trying to make it. And I didn't get much exposure to anything outside of that for a long time. But what happened was that a series of events kind of led to us moving to Towson when I was about 14 or 15. Now, I had all of my friends that lived in Northeast Baltimore, but then I started to go to high schools I went to three high schools. I was kind of a
Oh wow.
troublemaker. But the funny part about being a troublemaker is that getting kicked out of a school can also put you in another school that you never anticipated being in.
Yeah.
So the first high school I got kicked out of was St. Francis Academy in the city. It was a private Catholic school that was kind of an alternative school for some people and a regular school for others. Then the next school I went to was an art school. I went to the Carver Center for Arts and Technology. First day I went there, I kind of may have told this story before. I was in a parking lot and I saw a guy with a mohawk kiss another guy. That's the first time I'd ever seen two
Yeah.
guys kiss in real life. You know what I mean? And my
Or a
mom,
mohawk.
yeah, one of them, and or a
Just
mohawk, uh,
big
put
day.
together with Elmer's glue, which I found out later.
Yeah.
So I said this to my mom, and I was like, "Holy!" Like I couldn't process it. And my mom was like, "This is maybe the best thing to ever happen to you." For my mom to have the foresight to see that coming to a place where there were people that I didn't know was a good thing.
Yeah.
Like types of people that I didn't know was a good thing, and then just being open to it is another thing. And I promised myself that I'd take every friend that I knew to places that they hadn't
Oh,
been
cool.
to.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like it's a gift that keeps on giving if you really keep doing it. Like it's somebody teaches you something amazing and you teach another person about it and they kind of help you. It's
Yeah.
what I call a dark light theory, which is a weird sort of thing. But yeah,
Why do you call it that? No, I'm curious. That's awesome.
so I think that our brains creatively are like dark rooms, right? And I think that the more culture we get, the more light comes. And a lot of the times you don't realize how much these lights are kind of connected. And the more you expose yourself to, the light gets bigger, and sometimes the lights connect, and eventually, hopefully, ideally, you hope to have a room full of light. But that only comes with the idea that like you have to kind of put your ego aside and kind of know that you don't know everything, and the beauty of life isn't kind of the things that we think are like worldly possessions. It's culture and love and why the fuck is this getting so weird?
No, I know. Because, you know why? Because in real life, I'm a therapist. And, and
Uh,
you're an
yeah,
open person.
for
That's
for real,
why.
for real, man. Like it's a strange thing because I started comedy a little older because so what it did for me is I had a little more perspective. I wasn't into comedy for like I don't need any reassurance that I'm a funny person. That's not what I want. I mean, I might not even be that funny, but what I do want is kind of the idea of meeting new people and trying new things, and that's what comedy was for me. And I meet a lot of people in comedy that are doing it for different things. Like you meet people that are like, I'm gonna get famous. I mean, if fame
What?
comes
Good
about,
luck.
if fame comes about in the process of it, so be it. But that shouldn't be the reason why you're doing it. And you should aim to just become better. And then so when you get to a point where you have to prove yourself, you're almost undeniable.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been trying to do. So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. So it sounds like you came from a place where you were forced into isolation because you didn't know the world, any world around you, and when you
yeah,
had that opportunity to meet new people, to have new experiences, not only did you have miraculously the foresight to just be able to observe the world and kind of take it in while reserving judgment, you had a mom who was very much
yeah,
like open to that, which I think is a invaluable resource because you could have had that same moment where you saw those two dudes kissing and your mom, if you had a different mom, could have been like, I'm pulling you from this school, we're getting out of here.
hmm
And then you would have
homophobic slur,
yeah.
expletive. It could have been that, but it wasn't.
But yeah, no, and you, instead of being taken, it was almost like, and granted you would have been, you were what, 14, 15. It might have even been like, I don't know, like, it could have been a situation where you can even look at it like you're reverting back to childhood, where you see something new as like a toddler or whatever, a 4 year old, and you look to your parents like, is this okay? Is this thing
Right.
that I'm seeing, that I'm processing, is okay? And if the parents say no, then you learn to stay away from that new thing. But if they show, no, it's okay, you can meet new people, you
Yeah,
can experience new things, that's okay.
I have a pair of parents that are pretty extraordinary. And
I thought
they
you said pants for a second. I
a pair.
got
I have a pair of pants that are
sorry, sorry, go on.
No, it's cool. Like my parents are really pretty amazing people, and I bet in the moment, I mean, I know when I pitched these crazy things, I was like, I'm gonna start a clothing line, or I'm gonna just go out on the street and just put shit on the wall. Like I'm pretty sure that they were like, you know, it's a hard pill to swallow when somebody's just trying to like find a piece of, I don't know, some solace. So wanting something that's really fun and
Yeah,
makes you feel good. And so
that's
uh,
awesome that they support that.
yeah,
Well,
man.
so okay, so you're past high school. You just ate at the whole high school buffet, and then
Uh,
that's over. What did you do first, right after that?
Um, my grades were really bad in high school, so whew, I went to community college. I was so bad in high school that I was put on academic probation before I started community college. So
Set yourself up for success.
yeah,
That's
so my days in college consisted, well, at least in community college, consisted of smoking, drinking, and just kind of not doing anything.
yeah,
So there was a point where I was gonna drop out of college. I told my mom and my dad, and they weren't too keen on the idea. So I kind of breezed through really quickly 2 years of school, and I didn't do anything. So towards the end, my mom was like, give it a try. If you're gonna do this, if you're gonna give this up, give college a decent try. If you don't do well, just drop out and get a job. You got to leave the house, but you can get a job.
yeah,
So I kind of devoted an hour and a half to school, which I'd never done before.
yeah.
And then next quarter, I got like A's and B's.
That's exactly what happened to me at the end of
So
high
I
school.
was
I
like,
just don't
what?
dedicate time.
Yeah,
It's
so,
so
like,
easy.
so if I devote just a little bit of time,
Yeah.
so I'm not an idiot.
Yep.
I'm not an idiot. I'm not as dumb as I thought I was. So one thing I did too that was a little like weird that I would have done this considering I didn't give a fuck about school is every class that I took prior to this time, I made sure that they were transferable to any of the colleges in Maryland.
Yep.
So that it was weird. It's like all the stuff was kind of coming together. Once I did really well, I figured out that I could transfer my stuff over. I was an English major, and then I decided kind of at the last moment that I wanted to do radio. And the only college that was doing radio and really seemed to be encouraging people to do shit was Towson University.
Mhm.
So I wound up transferring there, and it was a breeze from there. like everything became a little easier. I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking. Um, I gave up sex for a little bit, which is a little weird. I gave up sex for like 2 years. I needed to like regroup. I had to like recreate myself, and it took a little while. Stand up didn't start until years later, like
Yeah.
fucking years later. So, um,
Man. Okay, so after college, what was the first job you did? I'm trying to piece together the timeline of all these
right, all
ventures you
these
have.
random things. So, huh? After college, my first job. Fuck, that's a really good question. So, okay, so so when I was in college, I interned at XM.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then I applied for a job and I didn't get it. I was down in the dumps. I cried. I cried because I really wanted to be a part of the world of radio. So I got a bunch of like shitty jobs, and I wound up like I worked at a video game store. Um, I wound up I did worked at GameStop for a little bit. I worked at a supermarket. I worked at a storage facility. And when I worked at the store, so this is
I
really
say, you see any weird shit there?
yeah. Oh my God, a naked person. Somebody was sleeping in one of the storage units. We caught two people having sex before. Um, yeah, it was crazy. So right around that time, I also produced. My cousin and I were putting together like something for him, some music,
Mhm.
and we recorded it on a farm. Like I met this guy randomly. He was like drunk. It was a weird thing, but I wound up meeting this guy. Wound up recording an album with my cousin in like a farm in Pennsylvania. So I was going to pick up the album. It was all mixed and mastered, and I was with my ex-girlfriend, and I go up to pick it up, and 83 is really closely connected to this portion of York.
Mhm.
Turned and got into a really bad car accident. I broke my wrist.
Fuck.
I couldn't breathe. They had to put me on oxygen, and I almost died.
Oh my
But
god.
one of the interesting things that happened was I couldn't use my right wrist. And while I was kind of relearning how to do this, I lost my job. I got fired. They said they wouldn't hold my job. I created a clothing line. And this was the first time that I had really thought to do like things and not give a fuck. Like
Mhm.
it was the first time, and it was like around 24, 25. That was like I have to do something, and maybe I won't get any help. Maybe I'm not going to get any support at first. So I created like a 8 piece line, released it. It sold pretty well. I'd ship stuff to like Germany and
Nice.
London and Japan. Um, got a bunch of local artists in Baltimore to wear it. And then I had kind of a falling out with the guy that I created it with, and then it kind of fell out. But that was the time I realized that I could create things. I could create things and keep going and not really care about what other people think because I don't think that's a proper gauge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people don't really know. Like in the moment, I bet when Louis C.K. was doing stand up and somebody was like, yeah, he was like, oh, I'm gonna do stand up. They probably like, no, they probably heard him do some jokes. I'm like, you're the fucking worst comic of all time. But that's what it is. It's practice. It's constant practice and reevaluation and I don't know.
No, it makes sense. This is the exact thing you were talking about with the light and dark brain stuff, where you want to have more experiences and you want to do things more, and you can hopefully. I was looking at it like both in life and in stand up and in anything really.
Yeah,
Like you're just leveling up, like in a RPG or something. You're
right.
just like, no, you got to keep doing stuff to get to that next level.
Yeah, I don't know why people think that I mean, natural talent is one thing,
Yeah.
but I,
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually think
Keep.
people with natural talent might actually be the worst off.
Yep. Because so I've been in a number of bands. One in particular that I'm thinking of, our singer, fantastic singer, not just like good at singing, but he also had this voice that just drew people in. And
Right,
just
right.
this very unique, but also like, yeah, whatever. So he was the laziest person I'd ever met. He never, not only did he not want to do any work on the band other than just making songs, but he didn't want to like he actively didn't want other people doing work. He wanted it to just be natural. Let's just play a show and then all those people will be our fans and they'll tell everyone and we don't have to do any kind of
Right.
work. And it just destroyed the band, but it was just such natural talent. Never worked a day in his life at it and terrible mindset to have.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting thing, man. Like I know a lot of funny. I know people that are funnier than me. I grew up with a lot of people that were funnier than me. I know, but I don't know. But when you see somebody try to apply that on the stage, it's totally different. It's like a
Yeah.
different animal. It's applying a lot of things that people don't apply in their normal lives.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because it's there's a whole creation aspect. Like I forget, I'm sure I was listening to I heard this on a podcast, but it was some comedian talking about how when you're doing oh, it was on the Champs podcast, so it was
probably.
probably Neil Brennan. And he said like when you're going on stage or when you're with your friends, you're just being funny. You get to be reactionary. Other people are setting you up. When you're on stage, you have to set yourself up, and that's a whole other skill than just being
It
able
is.
to respond.
It is. Um, I think. Well, I have a real problem with it. I have like a humor is a double-edged sword, man. I think there's something kind of manipulative about it. Like
Go on. That's
people
interesting.
that that have a pretty good sense of humor, especially in like sort of group settings, um, are incredibly. Just think about this. Just think about this. The ability for your body to just get, you say you want to get up and get a glass of water, right? For your body to be able to do that without you having to tell it, like, hey, do this now, right?
Yeah,
Be
yeah,
able to do these complex things, blink your eyes, do all this stuff, that's one thing. But to be able to almost control a conversation through humor is the most manipulative fucking thing. It makes me uncomfortable. You can almost like it's like people with manic depression. People with manic depression can see people with manic depression. It's like a thing, right? So when
yeah.
you, it's like a fucking ability. It's almost like the same thing when you have a sense of humor. Somebody comes into the room and you're like, this, oh fuck, this person is,
Yep.
it's that person. Like you are that person. And when somebody's stealing that light from you for a second, you're like, fuck, this guy's funny. This woman's funny. There's nothing more attractive than a funny woman, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you don't have women don't have to be funny.
Oh yeah. Oh
Dude,
yeah.
dudes, it's a part of the attraction thing.
Yep.
We have to have some sort of, and all dudes aren't funny, but humor is a big part of being a guy to me because it's always been like I've always used humor to get
Yeah.
women. It's always
Well,
been the
yeah.
thing that
Well, that makes perfect sense. Oh, by the way, I know that there's a like a half second lag on Hangouts, so
uh,
we've both been really good at not cutting each other off. This is much smoother than a lot of times, but
right.
I just wanted to point out, like, yeah. So anyway, no, with well, with getting like with guys having to develop a sense of humor, yeah, that's a tool that works to get women. When that is the if we're going straight evolutionary basis of life, that's the goal. So and it goes and that's kind of how I feel about when people choose to turn on the lights or to try to level up or whatever. They only do it if they have to. I think that's why you have teenage celebrities who end up acting 15 their entire lives because they never had to grow beyond that. They still got all the shit they wanted. But so with the difference between men and women and comedy, men kind of have to, most men have to develop that shit. They have to level that up. Women don't have to. So the ones that do, for one reason or another, I think I completely agree with you, are very attractive. I married somebody who could make me laugh really hard. Like that was such a
Yeah,
huge thing. Yeah.
it's an amazing thing, man. Like it's for one thing, like I said, humor in general is an interesting thing. But to find somebody who I don't know, man. I have a lot of conversations with really funny people
Yeah.
that don't even know that they're funny. Like it's like a
Yeah.
weird, like it's not even like a you have comedic timing is amazing, and I just
Do you tell them that when that happens?
yeah. I mean, I try to, but I'm not really good at taking compliments, and I try not to really try. I give them out so much,
Yeah.
but I hate when someone like after a show. I don't know how to respond to somebody telling me that they think that I'm funny. I
Why do you think that is? I'm really curious about that. Why do you think it's hard for you to take compliments?
That's a really good question. Um,
Can I? Yeah.
so
I
all
was gonna
right,
say if it makes you feel better, I can tell you why I can't. If that, I don't want
okay,
you to
tell
feel
me why you
uncomfortable.
can't. Tell me why you can't.
Well, I can't, and it took me a long time to figure this out. But it's because I'm no good at playing with a lead. My whole life, I'm used to having to be the one to prove myself or to like, hey guys, please let me in the group. Like, let me show you why I belong in the group. It's never
Uh,
just generally accepted. And so I spend so much of my time being like figuring out how to get people to like me that I'm not comfortable when people already like me. I'm like, oh shit, now that you've complimented me, I'm going to say something because I want you to continue complimenting me. But I'm
yeah,
going to say something that's going to lose the respect you already had for me. Like that's me anyway.
yeah. I guess what I realized, like, I guess before is like I was in high school and college, I was never the cool kid. Like I never, but what that does, what it does something amazing socially. It gives you the ability to be okay with talking to almost anybody. So being not being the cool kid at a very young age is okay because you get all this exposure. At the time, it feels like it's not a good thing. It feels like, well, I'm not hanging out with the cool kids. But what you realize is those people kind of hit their peak in
Yep,
high school.
that's they don't have any reason to move on, so they just
And,
stay and
yeah, and it kind of stunts their growth, right? So
yeah,
once they get in
absolutely.
after high school, they kind of remain that sort of idea of what a cool person is, and then you become you've grown and you have all these friends of all sorts. I can go anywhere and be cool with
Well,
anybody.
you developed self awareness because those
Oh
other
yeah,
people who were
yeah,
just I show up so I'm cool, or like I
yeah,
show up therefore everyone likes me. You
yeah,
actually learn real things.
absolutely. Then there's like the whole like this whole thing like The Office, right? What makes that show so amazing is that their boss is totally unaware of how people are.
Yeah.
And that's something beautiful about that. But I run into a lot of people that are truly like that, like truly not self-aware, like not sure that like them saying something like, I tend to think I'm one of the best workers here since Jermaine, and Jermaine died a couple years ago, so fuck his body. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a weird that people seriously say things like that,
Oh my god.
and they're
Yeah.
like, I'm all right with that statement, and no jokes, no nothing. It's like a real thing. Like the fact that you have a little like awareness of who you are and how this may be breaching the line of assholishness or I mean that's a made up word. But
I
you
like
get
that
what I'm
word.
saying.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
something but there's something really to be said about not really being popular and then kind of developing who you are as a person. And I may still not be popular, but to have the ability to talk to anybody is kind of why I think I thrive the way that I have in comedy.
Do you ever get people assuming that you were popular in high school or assuming
Yeah,
that
a
you've
lot.
always
I
I
mean,
think
so
yeah.
I give off a
No, keep
lot of
going.
things. I give off a lot of things that may say that. Like I like really nice shoes. I like cardigans. I like nice things. So it might come across like this was something that I've always kind of harnessed. But not at all. I think
All right.
that it's a weird assumption, but I get why people do that because like it, some people
Yeah.
remain popular for the rest of their lives. You know what I mean? So,
Well, that's no, just socially. I've never actually related to somebody on this before, so I'm actually really happy you said all that. Is that like when I developed a lot of social skills, I can talk to anybody, like all that stuff, and all that I really think comes from not being included in grade school growing up. And so I have recently, just in the last few years, had a number, not a, like, yeah, two or three people just randomly be like, "Oh, you were popular in high school, right?" And I was like, "No." It's like, "Well, why are you so comfortable talking to people?" And it's because I wasn't popular. And so I'm just curious about your experiences in that.
um, yeah, it was. So when I was younger, I had braces put on when I was in middle school and up into high school. So like maybe around like 13. I didn't get them off until my senior year of high school. I had surgery on my, so I had like teeth that were growing in my
Mm-hmm.
gums. I had to get a chain to bring them down and connect them to my
Mm-hmm.
braces. I had really crooked teeth. I got made fun of a lot in that aspect. So I had to do something that was almost like against everything that I stand for, which is almost kind of have ammunition every time. Like I'd have to go into a room and sort of have these jokes locked and loaded into my
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
Like I had to be like, this person's face is funny. This person, they walk weird. This person, and I'd have to have that in my head just so that I didn't become victimized in these
Yeah.
social situations. I'm against it, but so there's a difference between a person that makes fun of somebody in a group situation and what I used to do. So if you made fun of me, I would make it bigger than that. Like I would
Yeah.
stand up on something and say, "Hey, you know what's crazy? How crazy this person's face looks. This person's face is like, look at he looks like the Grinch. It's weird that he's so wrinkled and this young. How is he so old? His face is so old. And it's
You're not even
probably so,
addressing that person. You're not saying
yeah,
you're addressing the crowd.
yes. So that's
You're
what I would
already dealing with hecklers, like
already.
at that age.
So and I didn't really like I'm really to myself when it comes to that sort of thing. But I was always armed because my family's like that too. We have like insult central. Like you come in. Valence Michael is my cousin, like real life cousin. Not just like I'm not just saying like black, but like he and I always made fun of each other, and like to the point where like you'd be armed in a situation, and our family was the same way. Like it was like jokes on jokes on jokes. So I mean, I wasn't the most popular person, but people that got to know me, I mean, I guess realized that I wasn't a dick, So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
know.
man. So okay, what was the? Now I want to know what's the first time you remember making a room full of people laugh in any capacity?
Um, hmm. First time I ever. This sounds shitty, but that happened a lot. The first time that. Okay, so I'll make it micro, then make it macro, then tell you how this. So the first time I realized that I could make people laugh, was a girl that I used to like, this girl Kelly in first grade. I had this trick that I would do where I would talk to her for a little bit. I'd talk to a girl for a little bit and I kind of loosen my shoe and kick it up and go, whoop! Oh, my shoe came off. And kind of kick it in the air and catch it. It was the stupidest shit in the world.
Killing it.
Killing it.
By the way, Kelly, big listener of this podcast. Huge listener of this podcast.
Kelly, this is the thing. If you missed out. You missed out, Kelly. You fucked up. If that shoe trick fucked the game up, son.
That was just that was the tip of the iceberg. That shoe trick was over here. Oh my god.
Was shortly
The
followed.
the wing tip of the iceberg. Sorry, shitty pun. Go on.
So the shoe thing, right?
Yeah.
And then um I had this argument with this teacher when I was like 13, and she was like, "Well, you can't participate in this project." And I said, "Man," and she said, "You can't call me a man." And I said, "Woman," and I got people to laugh,
Yeah,
and I was
yeah,
like, "What the fuck was that?" Like, that's something I would have done anyway, like
yeah,
regardless. I was like, this humor thing is a good thing.
yeah.
So I just, things are funny, and I don't,
Michael, so tell me about your experience in. It's only been 2 years in stand-up comedy. Are
Mhm.
you mostly in the Baltimore, Towson area, or have you expanded outward?
Yeah, I mean, I've done some DC shows, mostly Baltimore.
How often you go up?
All right, good week, twice a week,
Hmm.
bad week, 5 times a week.
Jeez,
You know what
where
I
do
mean?
you
Like,
find 5 places to go? Are
oh,
there?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like within Maryland, yeah, there's Sidebar Mondays.
Yep.
Tuesday is Frederick. You can do two shows there. Wednesday there's Coco Lane.
Oh shit,
Thursday
Coco Lake. Yeah.
Thursday there's a circuit. Friday there's uh Zissimos. So you can wind up getting like 6 shows in, maybe even
Wow.
7.
Where's
So that
where's the Frederick venue? What
the
venue is that?
Frederick, there's hold on, what's the name of this place? Damn it, man. I don't remember the name of it, but they're really close to each other. They're
Yeah.
like right beside each other. But
That is just funny because of the ones you've named, I've played bands of mine have played at some of those venues.
oh,
Like
cool,
that's
man.
yeah,
I mean, I guess that's the part of the whole alt comedy thing, like having comedy in places where comedy isn't traditionally.
yeah.
And I realize that puts you in a different lane in terms of how people perceive it and what it is, and I don't know.
Why do you think that this what's now referred to as alt comedy is eventually just going to be comedy? Because it seems like the comedy crowds,
Yeah.
the people who really get into comedy and become comedy nerds, are the ones who will go see a show at like a rock club as opposed to like a bar.
Yeah, I think that people are kind of tired of the traditional like white people do this, black people do that sort of thing, and all comedy gives you a healthy alternative to it. I mean, like it can be anything from like somebody dressing up as a character from the 50s to somebody bashing a tape on stage to somebody, you know what I mean? Like it just becomes, to me, I like the absurdity of some of that stuff. I like things like comedy Bang Bang and uh, like improv and,
Yeah.
and while a lot of my stuff is kind of rooted in race because it's something that affects me a lot. That I joke about things like Doritos and
Yeah.
farts and dicks and
There's
baby.
what's the W. Kamal Bell has I don't know if he does it on did it on his show, but I just heard him say it on the Pete Holmes podcast where he mentioned that there's two distinct types of comedians in a lot of cases. There's
Mhm.
one that's he referred to as the it's like the guy who lives on his couch, where it's like comedians who are just usually like single guys who
Mhm.
most of their days are spent playing Xbox or eating Doritos and then like trying to meet women, and so all their jokes are like, yeah, they're funny, but it's like whatever. Like it's just I do. And Pete Holmes is like, yeah, that's true. I used to do a bit about fucking my Xbox. He's like, yeah, see that thing. And he goes, and then there's people who are like, they have real life responsibilities and
Right.
experiences where whether it's they're married, they have kids, or they came from a rough environment, or they have serious social and economic and racial and cultural things to say, and then
Yeah.
though that's that. So it sounds like you're fusing both of them.
Yeah. I've been. I don't want to use. I hate using the word blessed because I'm not a particularly religious person, but I've been afforded the opportunity to have these like two very different lives. Like the first 15 or 16 years of my life was one thing, and then the second half became this like sort of open opportunity. And I credit a couple things. I credit my parents. I credit good friends, um, Balance Michael, and then just like being open. I think that all kind of brings about my experiences because being where I'm from, I've seen a bunch of things that weirdly enough I've never talked about in my stand up,
Yeah.
and maybe I should at some point. But then also it gave me the freedom to kind of feel like I can do what I want, and I think that everybody should feel like that. Expression is one of those things. Like I don't think that people realize how freeing art is. It's a real thing. Like it can be the key to your freedom, the key to your emotional freedom, the key to like it can relieve stress, it can depression, anxiety, expression can be that. Art can be that. So
So you think eventually you will talk about that other stuff as a way to
yeah, I mean, I've
keep
kind of hinted about it. I have this joke that I was trying to tell, where I didn't really know how to tell it because I didn't have a punchline
mm,
about I was on a small block one time with my cousin, and these two kids came down and started shooting up the glass with BB guns, like blew out all the windows on in the street, right? So all the cars. So imagine like 10 cars on a block, all the windows shut out. So I was outside to see that. I left. I went inside, and then like a couple hours later, my aunt says, "Come outside. Um, the police want to talk to you." And I'm like, "Why do the police want to talk to
yeah.
me?" And she's like, "You were outside like for a couple hours, and I know that you saw this thing." So they take me outside, and there's like three kids come out of a paddy wagon, and they're handcuffed, and the cop gets them to kind of kneel down, and they tell me to point out the person that shot up the windows
In front of your neighborhood?
in front of my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I go to the first person. I'm like, no, that's not him. I go to the second person. I look at the cop. He's like, did he do it? I'm like, no, didn't do it. Get to the third person, and I get really like visibly shaken, right? So they're like, did he do it? And I'm like, nope, nope. I did a little extra. Like I was like, no, 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 no. And then my aunt,
Definitely not him.
right,
Definitely not
definitely
him.
not that person right there. So my aunt was like, what the fuck? Like, he did it, didn't he? And I'm like, no. She's like, if you don't tell him, I'm gonna kick your ass. So I look up at the cop and I'm like, he did it. So they pick the guy up. He looks me in my eyes, eye level. I'm like 12 at the time. He says, I'm gonna fucking kill you. So imagine me, a 12-year-old,
Yeah.
hearing that a guy's gonna kill me because I snitched on him as a 12-year-old, and my life is gonna end. So it was a joke. It was a joke that I was trying to put together, trying to make funny. But then I realized that a lot of these stories aren't funny.
That ain't funny at all. Well, I was gonna say what to me the silver lining humor in it. Who said they were gonna kick your ass? Your aunt?
Yeah.
That you were more scared of your aunt's whooping than
Yeah,
than
or
this dude.
something. I was trying to turn that into a joke. I wound up never telling it because
Yeah.
it was such a fucking weird. But
Well, yeah,
yeah,
it puts the listener in a place where they're like, "What? There's so much danger." But then again, there's so much momentum in that story. I hate to capitalize on like a
oh,
traumatic thing for
that's,
you, but that it's comedy. That's what you're trying to do,
yeah.
kind of. Anyway,
I'm just
but
trying to
like,
think of a way to make it funny. And I think that at some point, I think you're right. I think it has to be something related to my aunt and something related to the cop. So I don't know. I'll think about it. But yeah,
those are
there's
yeah stuff like that that permeates for years. I would bet like who knows if you're thinking about it, maybe 10 years from now, you have just a killer bit about that. But
right.
like, yeah, it's crazy.
Maybe at some point I'll be able to tell it.
That's
But
what's
yeah,
yeah. That's what's
sorry.
crazy about comedy is that like you'll hear comedians talk about a bit that took years to develop. And as a songwriter, I always like to compare the two.
Mhm.
It's very rare. Like sometimes I'll have like a song stowed away that wasn't good, and then maybe I learn something new about it or about songwriting that can make it better. But at that
Mhm.
point, I'd usually rather just like write a whole new song. And I know a lot of songwriters who are like that. So it's very strange to me to hear the idea of I don't know, having a concept of some piece of art in your head that evolves over time. But I mean, obviously, it works for comedians. So that's just really cool to me that that can be a
Yeah,
path to
man.
making a joke.
It may become something down the line. It may become something down the line, but right now, I guess it's not going to really turn into anything.
So, anything ever happened with that guy?
No,
You got
how do
out.
I say this without being too? Um, I had protection. Put it like
Okay.
that. I had
Yeah.
some help. I had some help. Once I voiced that it had happened, and he knew, like, yeah, it got taken care of. That sounds like I
Okay.
got him killed. No,
No.
that's not what happened. No, 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 no. He he is very alive, maybe, and I had nothing to do with it. Essentially, like we just separated ourselves at that point.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it
Because that
got resolved.
always, yeah. Because that always. I mean, I'm privileged motherfucker. I grew up in. I was what you would might have called a county boy.
Nothing
Um,
wrong with that.
but like no but it's like but what was weird is like in high school I used to like I grew up in Ellicott City near down the road from Coco Lane, and
Mm-hmm.
I would but I was like in my high school years, which was 2000 to 2004, I was super into punk rock. I still am, but
Yeah.
all of the punk rock venues, Auto Bar used to be in a terrible neighborhood.
It's in a
It's
terrible neighborhood.
yeah, like we used in and I don't know, fucking Charm City Art Space is not much better. And then we would go to like squat houses that were in the shittiest of the shittiest neighborhoods to see houses or to see shows. And so I saw an early 2000s Baltimore and very much felt like a county boy walking down the street. But here's what's crazy, and I want to know if your experience matches this. About Baltimore getting a little bit better, whatever you want to call it, less dangerous. I don't know, but we used to walk to Auto Bar, and we'd be walking down the street, just getting constantly verbally harassed about like, oh, your jeans are too tight, or like I don't know, whatever. But
Yeah,
now all the hipsters came and bought out the neighborhood. And so we're walking down to Auto Bar and we get made fun of because our pants aren't tight enough. And that's a really weird fucking thing to go through.
strange.
So like have you noticed a change in the neighborhoods where you came up in?
Yeah, I mean, my neighborhood, the neighborhood that I grew up in, like the Waverly area, is totally different than it used to be. It's been gentrified.
Yeah.
But
And
that
do you
doesn't.
think that's a bad thing, good thing, medium thing?
Um, hmm, that's a good question. I think that everybody deserves to have a good experience, and I think that the reason why some people treat the environments the way that they do is because they come from a culture where they aren't cared for. So when you come to a place like I live in Fells Point, right? Fells Point is I live right around the corner from some housing projects. The interesting part about this neighborhood is that the people from the housing projects also kind of function in the same space that everybody else does,
Hmm.
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's one of the few places where I see people sort of blending together and it not being a terrible thing. I think that also is partially because there are police everywhere
Oh.
in Wells. But yeah, I mean, gentrification can be a terrible thing. When I was younger, um, there was a housing project that got, I think it was Murphy Homes that got kind of blown up and they displaced all these people. They moved people to like Columbia and Frederick and some areas of Towson and like kind of put people in these weird areas. And I don't know, having people not feel like their home is a strange thing.
Yeah,
Um,
especially to Frederick. That's
yeah,
nuts. That's
yeah, going
absolutely
from like
nuts.
Baltimore City to Fred, that's like an hour away. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's kind of displacing people in that way. And, it's an economic thing. It's a racial thing. It's not a mistake that every time that there's a shift culturally when people move to a specific place, that school zones are kind of rezoned as well.
Uh,
You know what I mean? Like it's a race thing. It's a race thing. It's a class thing. Um, Gentrification is really cool because it brings about art. You know what I mean? Like I like places like Hamden, but when you go
yeah.
to Hamden and you're with a native Hamden person, they're trying very hard not to call you a faggot, to be completely honest with you. You know what I mean? Like they try really hard. They're trying. They're trying not to be like, get the fuck out of my neighborhood.
And what I bet is really frustrating about that is that no one gives them credit for the fact that they're trying really hard to
Yeah, they,
just yeah.
right. They could be a lot more hostile, and the fact that these like people that are dressing like they're economically not in a good place, but are kind of living off their parents' money, which is so first and foremost, have to understand that that's not a terrible thing. If you're privileged, that's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying,
There could be
it's
some things wrong with that, but yeah, I got you. I got
you come to the, you know what I mean? You come to almost these abandoned houses and live in them, and you're like, yeah, I'm just doing this art thing, and oh man,
it.
leave where you can live. Like I don't know, economically, I feel like that's a little weird. So gentrification is a horrible thing because of what it does. Like kind of the same thing with the way Hopkins kind of got all these people kicked out and forced them to move out and put them in places like away from their families and I don't know, man.
Yeah, because that's because describing it from that way, I'm such the outsider looking in on that situation. But describing, especially with the displacement, that very much feels like it feels like freaking refugees.
Yeah,
Where it's just like listen, you need to be moved for your own good.
right.
It's like it's almost it feels very inhuman. Where you're just like, no, you can just be moved, and that's fucking crazy to me. I've
That's
never thought
crazy.
about it
And
that
that's
way. Yeah,
that's the reason why money is so important. It's not that it really is ridiculous, but it is currency is social currency.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It
oh yeah,
really lets you it gives you freedom. It gives you the freedom to kind of relax. It gives you the freedom to like so imagine an idea where like a single parent has to pay for like, babysitting and all that stuff. If you could pay somebody economic you could get this person kind of taken care of, get your kid taken care of, and you could develop your skill set. You can work in these places. That's what money gives you. It
yeah.
affords you freedom. So I get the value in it, and I've made it a point to kind of make enough money that I'm good. But I don't really like. I don't worship it. I don't
Yeah,
worship it.
that's what always I growing up in an area where the vast majority of like the kids at my high school were very well off, very very well off, and I didn't go to a private school either. Like that's what was so crazy. But the way everyone like the elders, adults, and my peers talked about money, was always just like this. They did worship it. It was very much like you need this, and to me it was like stop making money your life, stop making money your life.
Yeah.
And then I got out of school And I was like, oh fuck, that's what they meant.
Yeah,
Like
it's the same.
I that it buys freedom. Now just like myself, were able to look at money in those two lights of, oh, who cares about money versus, oh, let's worship money, because they both me and them had the same baseline of our basic needs are met. So we have those freedoms.
Right.
So who cares? Like we were both ignorant. I think I was more good-hearted, but we were both ignorant. And so when I got to a point where like I was like, oh shit, this is the money that I make, and these are the things that I need, and these are the things that I want, and there's nothing else coming in, then that's a whole restructure of priorities. If somebody like before you want $1 million so you can buy all this fun shit. If I had $1 million, I'd use it so I could have a nest egg while I did art. It would give me the freedom to do what I want to do for a living while taking a non-risk. Like that's what I want with $1 million. Nothing fancy. I just want to give a chance to do
Right.
something fun for a living.
You
Like
want
that's crazy. I
it
don't
is
know.
crazy,
To
man.
me.
It's freedom. It's freedom. Like I think about it all the time. Like I work. I mean, I'll try to keep this as vague as possible. I work at a
Yeah.
very great place. My job kind of sucks, but I work at a great place, and I see
Google.
people that make a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I realize that there's a lot of freedom in it. They kind of their responsibilities are there, but they kind of become this sort of aloof, sort of shitty, weird thing where it's like a hybrid of you maintaining your laziness. You have like
Uh,
three things to hit on for the day. You're like, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna go golf. It's like
yeah.
what the fuck? So I don't know.
Dude, when I first, the big thing for me where I ended up just like I never wanted to have like a normal job or whatever. And the thing that made me feel like it was okay was when I finally got a normal job and I was like, this isn't and I liked it.
Hmm.
But I did eventually get a job where I was just at an office in a desk or at a desk doing okay, I've got 2 hours of work a day, and then the other six I have to be there.
Mm.
I got a lot of writing done when I had that job. But like I remember thinking, man, if they paid me just an insane amount of money to do this, I would never progress with my life. I would never progress. I would be completely stunted because it's so tempting and so easy to not try to get ahead if you're
Yeah.
making yeah, I don't know.
There are places that if one of the places that I worked that kind of changed my whole perception of work was the Apple Store. I worked at the Apple
Yeah.
Store for 4 years, and I mean it's clearly it's retail, but it's almost a transformative experience. You see people that are trying to get a tool that's expensive and using it to kind of change their worlds. Like people that were like video editing businesses and um, uh, their own retail businesses and all. Seeing
Yeah.
people kind of learn these things there because I taught some of them. You know what I mean? Kind of they come back in a week and be like, or a month and say, hey, like the stuff you taught me, I'm now making
Yeah.
5,000. You're like, fuck you,
Yeah.
5,000 a month,
You
fuck you,
hiring?
you piece of shit. But yeah, it's neat stuff. It really is. Like I think that people just, I don't know.
No, that makes sense. You have a work. I don't know. It's like you have a work environment that actually inspires you. Like I find myself. I try to get away from the whole celebrity hero worship thing, but comedians still like. I always, if a comedian says something that I think that I agree with, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I can adapt my life to that. Like I was used to be the laziest fucking person in art, in life, in work, everything. I was so lazy. I just wanted to make stuff and then not try. Yeah, that's probably why I hate lazy people now because I'm just like I wasn't so lazy. No, but when I first watched that South Park documentary, The 6 Days to Air, and they were
Oh yeah,
describing how much work they put in, and I was like, fuck me. Why am I not doing this? Like even like I need to like you need to put this into life. Like that should be your work ethic. That's make something really really good. But I still had this twinge of oh, this is a thing that isn't really going to do anything for me. This is just something I need to get through or something I kind of want to do. I would still kind of half-ass things.
yeah.
And then recently, again on the fucking Champs podcast, I've been listening to that nonstop this past couple weeks. But Wayne Brady was on, and he was
Oh,
talking about when he was in, I guess it was Disney World, maybe it was Disneyland, whatever it was. he was just doing like a song and dance routine for some, I don't know, some, I think it was like maybe it was an Aladdin type thing. I don't fucking know, one of those things. And he said, I was clearly listening to the story. So when he said he was describing all of how hard he worked and how much he practiced, and one of the hosts of the podcast was just like, why did you try that hard? Like, because he was describing nobody else was trying hard. And when Brady says, he was like, well, I may be doing a shitty thing, but if I'm going to be doing a shitty thing, I still need to do it the best that I can do it. Right. I was like, oh, fuck me. like, you're right. You're right. Even if it's something that doesn't really mean much, why aren't you doing it the best you can? Why aren't you like going above and beyond?
Yeah, and that doesn't mean like killing yourself to do it. It's just like there's that level where you can put in a little more effort. So yeah, it's become that for me. Like I stand up and all that stuff, and everything that I've done up until this point has been something that I've devoted a lot of energy to. Yeah. So I think what I want to try to do this year is I want to try to do like a web series or something.
Yeah.
I have an idea for something, and I'm gonna try to involve a bunch of comics and try to put something together. See how it works out. I don't know. I think that at this point, I think original content is going to be the way to kind of get the message out. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, absolutely.
It's your brand at this point. Like, you put out music, the music for people to come and see you. And I think stand-up is starting to become that too. You create the content so people can come and see you, and you can show them what it is you want to do.
Well, speaking of music in particular, when you're, it used to be that you would go tour, and that would be how you got new fans. You would go, like, sorry, that's not how it works anymore.
Right.
It's not, people aren't just coming for music. People are coming for specific bands, or if they don't know any bands on the bill, they're not coming to that bar or that club that night. That's how it's been for years. Yeah. People are stumbling on music on YouTube. People are stumbling on music on the internet. So to me, it's like whenever I see these bands who are using this model that hasn't been relevant in almost, at this point, like almost 10 years.
Yeah.
The touring model for new fans hasn't been. So it's like, why aren't you, like, you could make a lot more headway on your band and build up an audience before you tour by putting out YouTube covers. Or even funny fucking videos, or just tweeting a shit ton. Like, you can make more content. And I think that's why I like podcasting so much, because all it is new content.
Yeah.
It's just non-stop, yeah.
It's constant. Yeah, I have a podcast, too. I started a podcast, like, maybe 3 years ago with a friend called Movie Schmovie.
Yeah.
I really love movies. And so is my friend Steve and another friend John. So, yeah, that's what I do a lot of stuff. It's making
I know, right?
All this stuff. Yeah,
half of these you don't even have links up on your site.
Yeah,
At least I didn't see.
I need to make a site and just kind of map out all the stuff.
Yeah, I believe, and I have to look again, but I believe you still have MySpace links on your Facebook.
Yeah.
Links page.
What the fuck, man?
I'll tell you what. When I post this podcast, send me a Facebook message just with all your links, because I'm going to put them up anyway.
Okay.
And then maybe you'll just have that little thing where you can copy paste all of your links.
Yes. Yes. Like, hey, look at this. Damn it. That's a really good idea.
No, but that's really cool. I have no idea what your web series is going to be about, but I'm very excited to hear about that. That's like anytime, just talking to you has been fun, because not only like did we get into some like real shit, which I love talking about. A lot of comics like to just make jokes and bust balls and shit, which I love that too. But this is really cool to talk about that stuff. But you're also just and this kind of goes back to that W. Kamau Bell thing, where you were talking about real shit and able to still make jokes throughout it, which is not easy. Like, you have to be a philosopher and a comedian at the same time.
It's important, man. It's important. Mostly because, like, that's who I am. You know what I mean? Like, I there's no on and off for me. Like, there's a version of me that's a little more like heightened, obviously. It normally involves caffeine. I don't drink, but yeah.
Do you swear?
Yes, a lot.
Okay, because I noticed that I've been swearing a lot during this, and I don't think you have at all. Well,
I did say faggot, which is actually worse.
That's like, yeah, that's one of the, well, you said it in context. Like I get it. That's one of the words I don't say. But if it's in context, what are you gonna do? Just like dance around it?
I have a joke. I have a joke where I actually say faggot in a. So all right. So
Don't
I'm
burn a bit on the podcast.
I'm just gonna
All of these
tell.
listeners.
I'm just gonna tell the joke.
Okay.
So I have a well, I'll kind of summarize it. I have a
Yeah.
joke where I talk about how Wikipedia has like changed the way things are, and but the version that we see now is a lot different than the version that used to exist. Like because there are less moderators. There were less moderators before. You could put something really crazy on the internet and it'd stay on there for a while. Like you could say something like George Bush is a nigger faggot, and it'd stay on there for like 5 hours. Because let's be honest, George Bush is a nigger faggot.
That's great.
It was like
Oh,
it's a joke that one of the first jokes that I realized that I could like say anything I wanted to as long as
yep.
it was within the context of a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the first joke that I ever used faggot in, and yeah, so
It's a solid bit. It's a solid bit. No, that's oh my god, fucking. I think it's hilarious how George Bush. That's the difference between power. The dude goes from being a doofy like governor. Actually, he still kind of like executed a lot of people,
yeah,
but he has all this power, and I just remember being terrified, like when he was in
yeah,
office.
yeah. When he was in office, there was a lot of stuff, crazy stuff going down.
And
I
now that
mean,
he's not in office, he's just a doofy grandpa who paints dogs. Like,
yeah.
what the fuck?
I
It
don't think
couldn't.
he really wanted to be president, man. Like I think that he was just kind of pushed into the idea of it, and he's a great puppet, man. He's
Yeah, yeah.
a
He
great
kind
puppet.
of looks like one, which
He
is.
literally looks like a fucking marionette puppet.
Oh my god. Ugh. God, I hate. Sorry. Now, every time I think, I may have a smile on my face, but every time I think of various politicians and people who run certain companies, this hatred boils inside of me, and
Oh,
I can't. Yeah, yeah.
man, man.
Anyway, no. So we'll wrap up in a few. But fuck. What did? Oh, this is all I want to know.
Okay.
Starting comedy later. Because I'm not surprised that you said that there really isn't an on-off switch because your personality is you on stage.
Right, right.
I'm not surprised in that because it very much sounds like I know the whole search for finding your voice. It sounds like you're well on your way just from how natural it all is.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like, do you think that starting later helped you start to find your voice quicker than a lot of comics,
Uh,
or do you think that's just doing stand up is what did that?
I think just doing stand up as frequently as I did it, because there are people that are really young, like Nick Oldershaw. Nick Oldershaw is very young, and I think that he has a comedic voice um, that I don't know seems a lot stronger than a lot of people that I've heard, even though he's a walking penis.
You hear that? He
He's
didn't
a
because he doesn't listen to this, but that's okay.
But anyway, yeah, it's. I don't know if it has to do with age. I think it just has to do with like confidence in your voice, and then like how effective is it, and I guess um, the first thing I kept hearing when I did stand up when I first started was you have all these funny concepts, but they're not jokes.
Yeah.
They're just you're just saying things that aren't
You're
happening.
just saying things,
Yeah.
right? That's
So it took a while to realize. I mean, I don't even think that what I even tell at this point are jokes. So I'm trying to piece these things together that I think are funny.
well, that
Um,
makes it. That seems like there's so many jobs where it's like, oh, I don't know, I've never worked with that program before. It's like, oh, well, that's the easy part. You
yeah,
need to come up with shit to put into the program. That's
right.
what that sounds like with yours. You have the ideas, you have the creativity. You're learning the structure and you're learning the mechanics now.
Yeah, it makes me feel old though. I mean, like there aren't a lot of people in the scene that are so at this stage in the past like 2 months, I've maybe met maybe 50 new comics.
Yeah,
And that's really crazy because
yeah,
it's
that's a
like,
lot.
to have done stand up for 2 years, you see all these people kind of come and go, and there's like a pretty much a static group of people that are doing it. And I think that there are only a few rooms that give you a very accurate representation of um, how people are going to react when you do the bigger shows, and I think that Sidebar is one of them.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
hear so many good things about that place. That's the dude who owns Sidebar is a friend of mine, and I've played there a million times. That place is so fucking awesome.
yeah, it's a great place for stand up.
Yeah, I need to go. I so this sucks. Like I've never actually been to an open mic to watch at
Yeah, in your
Sidebar.
life,
Cause, huh?
in your life.
No, because I don't know how long they've been doing the open mic, but for the last whatever 3 4 years,
Mhm.
Monday nights are my band practice. So that's what I
No,
do on Monday night, and I'm on that fucking page, and I see all the people updating about shows and stuff, and I'm like, well, that looked awesome. That looks
yeah,
awesome. And then there was one time I was gonna go like a month ago when I found out that we didn't have, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. We didn't have band practice, and then it started snowing, and I was like, well,
yeah,
I'm not getting stuck in Baltimore on a work night. That's not happening.
yeah. Try to go to one of the open mics, man. Even if it's not a Sidebar one at first. Sidebar is like the, to be honest, it's like the jungle. It's
Dude,
like it's
yeah.
weird, man. It's like it's only the strong survive.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Man.
awesome.
It's a cool thing only because like I think that you can start out and be okay, but then you realize that you have to sustain that sort of feeling. I mean, because like at first people are very open because you're new, but then when you start just saying weird things just to get a laugh, it becomes less effective. Excuse me. Uh,
That's interesting. So, do you have any advice for any other comics who are kind of falling into
me,
that
me
trap?
giving me giving a comic advice. Well, oh God, I'm not really. I don't think I'm qualified, but I'll say,
See,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say it's again that's that self awareness. Like
Yeah,
you got that. You know that that's kind of weird to
it's
only be doing something for 2 years and give advice. But I asked you to, so
so
it's not on you. Not on
yeah.
you.
So the first thing I do is maybe actually write some jokes. Don't tell a fucking story. Don't tell a story. This is the thing. Most people are awful at telling quick stories, and if you have 5 minutes, nobody wants to hear one long story unless it is the most incredible story ever. You know what I mean? You want Bill Burr, you want Louis C.K., you want Hannibal Buress. Don't do stories the first time. Um, Avoid racial slurs at first. 'Cause I feel like that's a lot what happens. People kind of, it's like when you first discover profanity and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, fuck, 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 fuck. Look at me, fuck, fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So avoid that. Um, I don't know. Don't go for too long. Oh, practice a little bit. Practice in front of a friend. Um, and watch some stand up. I feel like watching stand up really helps. I have a bunch of shows I watch for inspiration. I watch like Marin, I watch Louis, I watch Broad City, Workaholics. Um, then I watch a bunch of YouTube shit,
Yeah.
clips of kids falling off of things.
With your notepad diligently taking notes.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Uh,
That's funny.
double X porn, and sometimes triple X porn. I don't think there's really such thing as double X porn. I just,
What the fuck would be the difference?
I mean, I guess,
It only goes in 2/3 the way.
yeah, I guess they don't show that ball shot,
well,
like,
I'll subscribe to that site then.
right,
Jesus Christ,
right. I feel like that should be like a selling point.
dude,
Bam.
that's a genius business idea. You just take already existing porn, you just cut out those shots, and you're like, no, now it's 100% taint free
What
porn.
if people like tank compilations? I have to see if there's like tank
Taint
comp,
comp.
tank comp volume 6. They
Drop
always
in the
like
summer.
hardcore rock during those compilations. Fucking makes me feel weird, man.
Burn out now.
No. They're just showing the balls.
Well, on that note, do you have any plugs that you can give? And obviously, send me your links, and I'll put them up when I post the
Um, I'd say movie schmovie. Look that up on iTunes. I'm pretty much at Sidebar. I'm a staple there. That sounds fucking terrible. I frequent that place, so if you want to see me there, I'm there. Also, the circuit on Thursdays, I tend to do that show a lot too. At some point this year, my cousin and I want to try to get a show together, like a pretty consistent show, um, so that comics can kind of get on. I have some online content I'm going to work on pretty soon. I don't know how soon that's going to come out. Um, the movie I'll give more information on. It's small and super indie, but I guess movie schmovie and
Nice,
sidebar
nice.
and circuit. Those are probably the most.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Look, thank you for having me on. This is
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
one of the better conversations I've had, regardless of like not even interviews, just like conversations in general. That's really good.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad I got to meet you, and I'm definitely going to come out to a sidebar or see
Oh
you.
yeah,
Especially Coco Lane's 10 minutes from my house. That's the
yeah.
other thing. But yeah,
Coco
all
Lane
right.
sign up only. I need to get on it. I need to like sign up for one of the days.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right, man. Well, I will catch you very soon, dude.
cool man.
All right, see ya.
Peace.